We are super excited to have another extremely special episode of Mindset Master Moments. I'm in studio with my dear new friend and powerhouse coach, mentor, who has been the author of World-Class Wealth Mindset, my dear friend Arash Vossoughi. Arash, welcome to Mindset Master Moments, and thank you for allowing me to sit down with you in your own space to interview you for our episode this week.
Well, I'm glad to be here with you, Alisa. I know in our previous conversation, we just hit it off, so I'm looking forward to having this conversation and really impacting people together.
Yes, and so your work and your trailblazing work has been so outstanding. I've had the pleasure of meeting and chatting with you and following you on social media, looking at the impact you've made around the globe. And so your biggest topic that people love to come to you for is how to build that wealth mindset. And so I'm actually calling your episode the Millionaire Mindset.
Oh, great.
And I love that you have, shameless plug, you have the Millionaire Mornings. That is something can't wait to share with you all at the end of the episode. But tell us, what would you say is the most responsible thing for the millionaire mindset? And how did you even get on the journey of having your own millionaire mindset?
It's so interesting. I think the most prominent thing that people have to focus on is why they want to have a millionaire mindset. Because we don't do anything if we don't have a reason.
Right.
Now, I will be very transparent with you. When I started this work 20 years ago now, I had no desire to be a millionaire. It wasn't even in my space. I was working at a corporate job, but I knew I wanted more. And recently, I haven't talked about this in a long time. The last 2 weeks it's come up. I remember there was a gentleman by the name of Vic Johnson. I didn't know who he was. I got an email from him and said, if you pay $4.99 in shipping, I'll send you this book. And the book was Think and Grow Rich. I had never heard of the book before. And I said, okay, I'm going to do it. I was in a corporate job. I was earning about $110,000 a year, but I wanted more.
Yeah.
Anyway, I get this book and I start reading it. And I couldn't put it down. And I remember the first few chapters, it says, follow these instructions. At that moment, it says, what do you want? And whatever you want, you can have. So I said, okay, I'm just going to follow the instructions. So I remember my first goal I set was $50,000 a month. But one of my superpowers, even when I wasn't successful, was accepting ideas. So I believed that I could do it. If this book says you can do it, then why not? So I was ignorant enough just to follow the exact steps that they were giving you, because I never had this program. I've tried this for years and it didn't work. So I just accepted the idea. And then it says you have to know what you're going to give in return. And on the periphery, I always knew I was a coach at heart. But I never owned that idea. So I wrote on this paper that I'm going to coach people for a living. Now, if you said, did you believe it? No. But I just kept talking it into existence. I would speak it into existence. That's what I was doing. And that was what started. And from that book, for a 3-year period, I just dove in. I read 300 books. Like, you're in my studio right now. You see all these books, but we have books that are not here.
Right, that are even on the audiobooks.
I'm obsessed with reading now. But at that time, I was reading all these books, but I was getting no results.
Yeah.
And so I remember thinking, something's not right. And the combination I'm doing is not right. I never doubted the work. I never doubted would it work? Do these books work?
Right.
And then I would go to seminars. Like, I was all in. I was all in that I was going to get out of the corporate world. My idea was, once I build my coaching business and replace my income, then I'll get out of the corporate world. Well, the universe and God had a different plan.
Always.
3 weeks before I'm getting married, I lose my job.
Oh, my goodness.
And the funny part was, I mean, it wasn't so funny at the time, but
of course.
but
it's humorous when
yeah,
you
now I
back.
look back on it. But the funny thing is, I was really asking for that because I kept my focus on something else. I wanted to do something else.
Right.
And you got to be careful what you ask for and how you ask for it. And I remember there was rumors that my company was going to sell. And the only person I reported to was the president of the company.
Okay.
And I go to him and I said, I hear these rumors. I'm getting married in a few weeks. I just need to know, are you going to sell?
Right.
And he said, don't listen to the rumors. You'd be the first person I tell. And the next day they sold. And I remember I was super angry because I got lied to.
Right.
Then I was walking out, and this moment changed my life. I know it sounds like a hyperbole to all your listeners, right? But I was walking out like I was doing the walk of shame.
Oh my goodness.
And I had this voice that said, why are you mad at them? It's your responsibility to take care of you. And in that moment, my life changed. In that moment, I teach a term called philosophy. My whole philosophy changed. And when we shift our philosophy, you shift your direction.
Come on.
So then the new company comes in and is begging me. And I'm not joking when I say begging me because I was the top performer there.
Right. So you know the stuff.
Yeah. And I remember my wife now, my fiance at the time, I said, I'm not taking their offer. Wow. And she said, are we going to be okay? And she was getting her master's at the time and working a full-time job. And I said, we'll be fine. And I had no idea that we would be fine. But I knew if I would have taken that job, I would have never left the corporate world.
You see?
I knew I would have been stuck in that prison. And that's how this whole thing started for me.
Saying yes to your dream.
Yes.
And that is, oh my goodness. And we're going to dig into that a little bit more because I know that a lot of the individuals who listen and follow the podcast, both video and audio, they are entrepreneurs or they're, what they call workingpreneurs now. And a lot of us are trying to figure out how do I escape that 9 to 5? But before we delve into that, I want you to take us back a little bit back into your early beginnings, because one of the things that you said that was so critical as I listened to you keenly was I didn't have a philosophy already about things not working out. How is it that you didn't have that? Because most of us have some type of program. I mean, you had to be about, in your 20s or something when you were in that spot, but you didn't have a philosophy that says, I've tried a lot of things and it didn't work. How did you get there? What's your upbringing that would bring you to that space?
I think, looking back, it's a great question. I mean, all of us have a philosophy. It's just unconscious for 99% of the population. So my philosophy was not a healthy one. Okay. It was not an empowering philosophy, I would say. But if I look back, I played competitive sports my whole life growing up. Okay. And I look at how much that really shaped my life going forward because you learn leadership skills, you learn how to overcome adversity. Yes. There's so much that I would tell you. I've always been a free spirit trailblazer. I didn't follow a lot of rules. I shouldn't have been in the corporate world. Like my personality was not aligned with following, you have to wear this, you have to do X, right. So I think I use this term that I was inspirationally dissatisfied. And
I like it.
So to define it, I was so sick and tired of being sick and tired. And that's what drove me to say no to comfort, even though I'm getting married, I'm doing these things.
Yeah, because that's scary.
What was scarier to me? Doing what I didn't want any longer.
Be average, right?
Yes, that's right. That's what was scary to me.
Yes.
Like, I would have rather went after it and failed than not went after it at all.
Right.
And I teach my clients, because they know my story, right? I say, you don't have to do what I did.
Right.
Because it was very illogical what I did, but it was right for me.
Right for you. Keywords is it was right for you. And I love that. And I hope that the listeners and viewers are hearing that. Because a lot of times we listen to our mentors and coaches and we want to follow the exact steps, but we don't need to follow the exact steps. We need to follow the exact blueprint.
That's right.
Which is very different than steps, because I could want to build the same office that you have here at my home, which will mean I would have certain basic things that I would have to get, which would be more of a blueprint. But who and how it gets built, I could change the color and all that, would be what's designed truly to my needs. But I'm looking for the same functionality, so to speak, but it's got to be mine. I'm going to still want it. I'm probably not going to have the same books unless I'm literally just photocopying. I'm going to have my own books, right?
Right.
I might not have as many. I might have less, right? So it depends. I'm not going to have your book only. I will have pictures of my family in my office. So it's still not exact. And so we want to hear, I want you listeners of yours to zone in, but tell us about that when you're thinking about someone, when you're coaching someone to sort of go into their authentic pathway. How do you guide them through that?
Well, when you're coaching somebody, when I'm coaching somebody, I put all my energy on them. What do they want? Not what I want. And I always say people listen to me because they know I'm listening to them, because they're the most important person. So the first thing I want to know is, what do they really want? It's the most important question we can ask ourselves. What do we really want more than anything else in the world?
Wow.
And then I want to know why. See, if I know the why, they have the buy-in to it. If they have a big why, they don't need to know the how.
Exactly.
But I want to know, and I shape everything around what they tell me. Like, one of the things I do, if you told me what you wanted, I'll accept the idea in my mind that it's done, and I coach you from that space. I don't coach you from where you are. I take you from where you are to where you want to go.
Yes.
See, we got to understand our wants, and I've changed my opinion on this. People used to tell me, Alisa, I don't know what I want. So I used to take them through a process, and I'd say, okay, write out the exact opposite of what you don't want, then you're going to know what you want. But I think that's a weak standard. Because if we don't put ourselves on the hook to actually think about what we want, then when but when we hit adversity, we're going to fall instead of rise. Right. So I've changed that, and I'll tell clients, the only reason I've studied this thousands of times, thousands of different ways. What I've discovered, the reason people say they don't know what they want is because they don't believe they can achieve it.
I believe that. I believe it. They do know, but they don't even want to say it. And it's something you said, you wrote down that you were going to be a coach. You read the book, you read Think and Grow Rich, and you said it. You didn't really necessarily believe it that you said, but you wrote it down. But you were connecting in your consciousness a thought, and you already brought it to life when you put it on paper. And then you start to speak it, and then you start to align your actions with it, which I talk about think, speak, do, become, because it's just it just goes together. And a lot of times you start to believe you more when you start to speak what you're thinking, doing it repetitively, and then you start to get the results. And those are the outcomes you get, right? So tell us, when you said you didn't believe it, walk us through that process, how you went from not believing it, but thought about it and was going forcefully. What's happening with humans when we sort of do our own version of that?
Yeah, I didn't believe it, but I did not believe it. So I wasn't one end or the next. When you have belief, it's an acceptance of an idea deep inside of you. That's what belief is. Yes. Right? So it's not that I didn't believe it. I just didn't believe it. I didn't have either. So I was right in the middle. So
walk us through that. You just took my mind around a bubble, because, and I know I caught it. Like, that hit me. Whoa. I'm like, whoa. But somebody's listening, like, what do you mean he didn't believe it? But he believed it, and he didn't believe. So walk us through what that could look like, because I'm sure there's someone listening who believes something, but they don't really believe it. What does that mean?
When I say I didn't believe it, because I've never done it. I've never had that visceral experience that I've done it or something similar to that.
Right.
So I didn't have belief. I'd be lying to your listeners if I said, oh, right away I knew I believed it on every cell. It's not true. Yeah. But I didn't believe it. But what drove me at that time was hope. And hope gives us options.
Wow.
But we don't want to stay in the hoping state. We want to stay in the desire state.
Right.
And so the desire state is the knowing state. I wasn't in that knowing state, but I was willing to go there. And I was willing to do whatever was essential for me to go there. And the next thing I did was I hired a mentor. I didn't have the money. And I figured out how to get the money.
Right.
And because I was aware enough that I had to leverage my ignorance. Because if I already knew it, I'd already be doing it.
Right.
So what ended up happening, and it's funny we're going at this the way you set this up, because it's exactly what happened. So the day I lost my job, I had a mutual acquaintance, and I just started a network marketing company because I was like, I got to create multiple sources of income.
Right.
And I'd never done network marketing ever in my life. And it's not for me. I don't have nothing against it, but it's not my jam.
No.
Right. But I remember this acquaintance told me, he said, this won't be your purpose, but it'll lead you to your purpose. Anyhow, I'm on the phone with him and I said, I just lost my job and I'm not going to accept the new one. He goes, you need to talk to my friend. I said, who's your friend? He said, Bob Proctor. I said, you're kidding me. Bob was somebody I admired for a number of years. So I had been studying. The first people's work that I studied was Bob and Jim Rohn.
Right.
In this audio series that I would drive around. And what I found out later, that was the only time in 50 years they would meet each other, pass each other. That was the only time they ever spoke together. It was the audio series that
you were listening to.
That I was listening to.
Wow.
Those were the only two that really, out of all the speakers, they just hit me. Anyhow, he gets him on the phone with me, and Bob says, well, tell me what's going on. And I said, I just lost my job. I don't want to take the new job. And I want to create a life of freedom. Freedom was my word. That was the idea I fell in love with, because I wanted to do what I wanted, when I wanted, as often as I wanted, with whomever I wanted. Anyhow, he says to me, he said, how serious are you to make the change? And I didn't know where he's going with this. And, because I didn't even know Bob did close mentorship. Right? At the time, mentorship was not as easy accessible as it is now.
Yes.
And I said, I am really serious because I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. What I said earlier, that's exactly what I told him.
Yes.
He said, well, what's your goal? I said, I don't know what I want. I said, the only thing I know is I want to live a life of freedom. And he said, you do know what you want.
Yeah.
And he said, are you willing to do exactly what I tell you to do? And I said, honestly, I don't know. I said, because I've never done exactly what anyone's told me. And he told me later, the reason we connected so well is because of how honest I was.
Your honesty, I was going to say.
Because I knew I've never done it. I've never followed through. Right. I was a great starter and a terrible finisher. If you put me at the starting block, I mean, phenomenal. If you put me at the finishing block at that time, terrible.
I might not be there.
Yeah. So he said, that's because you've never gotten the right direction. And he said something that changed the game, going back to belief. He said, I don't need you to believe it. I need you to believe that I believe I can show you how. Right there, changed the game.
Whoa. That's a doozy.
Yeah.
I don't need you to believe it. I just need you to believe I can show you.
Yes.
I'm sold.
It took so much pressure off of me.
Yes.
It took so much pressure. And I said to myself, you got to understand, I had done mentorship programs before.
Right.
Nothing changed.
Right.
But then I evaluated myself and I said, did you do them or did you do what's convenient? And so I made it into a game. You know, I'm an avid sports fan, so everything I think of is in games. Like I think life is a game. Yeah. And anyhow, I said, I'm going to do exactly what he tells me for 1 year. I'm going to have no judgment on it, and I'm going to do it. 3 months in, I went from 0 to 10,000 a month. And I was never going to work for somebody, but I took a job. I took an independent contractor. I did medical sales. But I said, once I got to 10,000, I said, this is what I want to do. I want to teach people what was just taught to me just for 3 months. And I quit the medical sales job.
Wow.
A few months later, Bob asked to partner up with me. He asked me to partner up with him, and he wanted me to run his sales department.
Wow.
And I said, these are my two passions, coaching and selling, because my belief, and it's very strong, you can't help somebody until you sell them. So
Yep.
the next 15 years, I got the best hands-on experiential coaching. And in that year, to give your listeners, I went from, $150,000 in debt to getting rid of the debt and creating a positive 282. I thought I hit the lottery. I was like, I wasn't paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
But you know what's so interesting?
Mm-hmm.
When I started this, I thought once I can get more comfortable financially, that's all I wanted.
Right.
Then I got more comfortable.
And you realize.
And then I'm like, there's a lot more. There's a lot more.
There's a whole world more.
And I remember saying to myself, let's see how far you could take this.
Right.
And so for 15 years, I was side by side with Bob, and we were coaching people. Wow. We were coaching people. And, he became one of my closest friends. Like, I was with him at the very end of his life, and we had very special moments. And he told me and his wife that he was passing the baton to me. Yes. But he taught me so much. When you asked in the beginning about the millionaire mindset, to me, what most people don't understand, it's about value and service, not income. And once you focus on the value and really learn how to serve, which is another interesting topic.
Come on.
That's when your life is going to change.
Yes.
And the income is always an effect. It's not the cause.
The side effect, I call it.
Yes, it is. That is good.
It's so easy.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So such an incredible journey. So I know someone's listening, and they're hearing, they're like, oh, lucky him. He got connected with Bob Proctor. Great. The great Bob Proctor. What I hope they caught, and you can tell us a little bit more about that, it was your mindset of doing, and I like the way Bob put it. He said, I just need you to believe that I can show you how. What I was hearing, and you can reflect on this with me, is that he wasn't going to be probably what you've had for mentors before that are going to tell you how to do what they've done, but was going to take who you are, what you want, where you wanted to go, and help you get there and guide you through the process of getting there. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. When Bob was very demanding, he'd be the first to tell you that.
I'm sure.
What connected us deeply, he really respected people who did the work. So he saw me do the work. If anybody thinks Bob and I got together by chance, everything we draw is an attraction to what we're in harmony with. And him and I were obviously on the same frequency, right, with where we met in the middle. Okay. And, I remember his 80th birthday. We were in Las Vegas, and he's thanking everybody for coming. There's it's like, imagine a wedding, but a celebration for his 80th birthday. And he said, my company really started to change when Arash came in and took over. The sales department, the leadership, and Bob's mentored a lot of people. He's mentored millions of people. Right. People always ask me, well, how did you get the relationship with him and other people didn't? It's because I never tried to get the relationship. That was the key. Wow. I would have never imagined,
You'd be on the phone with Bob Proctor, and then him calling you to lead his sales team, and then you being directly mentored by him. Like you said, back in those days, which is over 15 years ago, mentorship with anyone that was in that space was very, very limited, right?
Yeah, it was very different.
What kind of mindset, and Dr. Kareem Ellis and I have an episode coming out on mentoring, because it's one thing to be a mentor, and it's another thing to be someone who knows how to be a mentee. Right. Right? So my question for you is, what kind of mindset did you shift into when you agreed to believe and agree that Bob can take you where you wanted to go? Because I want listeners and I would say potential coachees of yours and mine to understand there is a mindset for that. And you would have only been able to have a successful coaching experience with Bob for those first 3 months. You highlighted that you went into $10,000 months.
Yeah.
It would have only been successful based on what he brought and what you brought. So kind of tell us what that mindset looked like from your end.
Well, from my end, I was naive. So I'll tell you that. But what I did do, looking back,
Yes.
is I surrendered to his process. But what I was doing is I was taking his programming and making it mine.
Gotcha.
So I would study him closely. And I wouldn't just do a coaching call. I would re-listen to it over and over again. I would stay up till 2 a.m, really doing the repetition of getting this. And then it took form. But I'll tell you the best thing I did. I started behaving my way into a new identity from the very beginning.
Behaving.
Yeah, so what I mean by that, I was taking action before I was ready. And when I did that, the results started changing dramatically. How can somebody go from $150,000 in debt to a 7-figure income within 24 months? It doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
And what I always tell people, and this is what I experience, when you're getting coached, it's going to be so counterintuitive to any of your beliefs. And you're going to feel that discomfort. It's not that I didn't feel discomfort. I ate discomfort for breakfast. That's really what I did at that time. I really was like,
you have a few snacks in between as well if you needed to.
Yeah, that was a good sign.
Yeah.
But you know, the interesting thing, I was just thinking about this.
Yeah.
So before Bob and I met, so you want to talk about synchronicity. So probably 2 months before, we had this phone call. I get this email. It says Bob is doing a free event in Scottsdale. So he's doing an hour talk.
Yeah.
And so my wife and I went. And, she says, go get a picture with him. I'm like, no, all these people are surrounding him.
Yeah.
And she's like, you're going to regret it. So I end up going with her pushing. And I end up shaking his hand. And I say, you and I will work together soon. I don't know where that came from. I have no idea.
Sounds like my type of people.
I have no idea where it came from. And then whatever. It was done. We took a picture.
Yeah.
It was a great evening.
Yeah.
And then now I can look back at how all this. Then I met that acquaintance soon after I went to that event. And how I met the acquaintance was I gave him a business card. And if I don't go to this event, I don't give the business card, none of this happens.
No.
So when we talk about three degrees of separation, what you're doing or not doing is either seizing the opportunity or playing a small game.
Yes.
I stopped playing a small game. The minute I committed to doing it, my life, I played much bigger.
Yeah.
And, I didn't even know I was playing it bigger. But I started, one of the things that Bob taught me, and he says, I want you to brain tattoo, was do it now. And
brain tattoo.
Yeah, so do it now. Everything I did it right away.
Wow.
And one of the biggest things that your listeners, I'm sure, are doing are talking themselves out of dreams because they say one thing, I'm not ready.
I'm not ready.
I think I'm not ready is the biggest BS story we tell ourselves.
Come on.
Because we're never going to be ready until we do it.
Never. And it changes. Even what you perceive it is that you're going to do changes. It could look like a total different, like, for example, this podcast. I was just going to record content and give it to the world and put all the stuff that's gotten me. And here I am sitting with you, which looks different from what I planned, but still brings me along the same path because that's just not my voice and my message. It's our voice and our message, which amplifies the work that I intended. So just do it is what you're saying. You've given us, I'm trying to keep track in my head. I want to get a notepad because we start off with number 1 is do you, meaning be authentic, be true to your vision and dream. And if it's not in alignment, it's make you sick inside, it has to go. It doesn't matter what it is. So that's that fearless entrepreneurial spirit, I tend to call it. but it's the making of greatness. It's the making of that millionaire mindset, because that's kind of where you start. You're like, look, I can go back and work for these people and hate my life and hate myself and make sure, and not scare my soon to be wife with the income, you know, or I can just go after what I know I was created for. And that, yes, you see, it's not always yes, 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 yes. A lot of us think, oh, yes, if I say yes, I'm going to be saying yes to this and I'm going to be saying yes to that. You're just thinking too much. You're just saying yes to what you know your true self to be. Just say yes to yourself. I heard that. And then it was the gap is that mentor.
Yeah, I think everybody should have a mentor.
Come on.
I think it is the biggest cheat code to creating a world-class life.
It's the only one.
And every level, I don't care where you are, you have to have a mentor. I remember listening to Warren Buffett. He says, whatever you invest in yourself.
Yes.
And he said, invest in mentorships. It is going to be the greatest payoff of anything else.
Yes.
But we have to understand this. What are results? Results are a manifestation of our actions. Our actions are a manifestation of our programming. Now, what I was doing those 3 years where I was reading those books and not creating results, because I was just gathering information. It's very different. Learning is not gathering information. See, learning, there's 3 stages of learning. Learning is getting intellectually involved with an idea, then getting emotionally involved, so we're transferring it to our subconscious mind, and then stepping out and acting, and the change in result will tell us if we learn. So if we put our hand on a hot stove, and we do it again and again, we didn't learn. But the minute you do it, you're not going to do it.
Not going to do it again.
However, this could work against us too, because a lot of people will say, I went for that investment, I went for this business, and it didn't work out, they'll never try again. And so we have to understand failure is our best friend. I teach my kids this. If you were to talk to my kids, I have a 10 and a 12-year-old, the first thing they'll tell you is you can't win without losses.
Woo.
And
gosh, to know that 10 and 12.
Like they will tell you that because, they get emotionally involved like we did when we were younger. Or even a lot of people.
We still do.
See, we've got to understand, I'll give you the biggest key. If somebody just did what I'm about to tell you, it'll change their life.
Get your notepads and pens out, guys.
You have to be willing to fail at your future self, then succeed at your present self. And
wait, go say that again, because I'm so glad I get to listen to this on podcast perpetually.
So you have to be, if you really want to create a world-class life, which I think everyone should go after. I'm biased for sure, but I know the steps to create it. But you have to be willing to fail at your future self, then succeed at your present self. See, why people are not creating results, everything they're doing is from their past or present self, what they see in their environment.
Yes.
But your future self is not who we are. Like my future self, your future self is a completely different person. They're much wiser. They have much greater grit. They have much more confidence. So every decision you make is, would my future self say yes to this? And if the answer is no, then you say no. If the answer is yes, you say absolutely.
Yes.
And that will change anybody's life, because if we keep defaulting to our present self, what are we going to create? Same results.
Listen, guys. The podcast is over now. Y'all got a whole life lesson. And I have a whole episode that I did in the earlies of this podcast talking about that. And I kind of call it delayed gratification. I love this version of it though. You're saying, let's back it up here again, because I got to digest. It just got really warm because I get so excited about this stuff. A lot of us are in this space where it's like, I tell people, when it comes to setting boundaries and going after your goals and achieving it, you have to think, if I give up 2 hours of sleep today to get this done and done it right, because like you said, you're in the program with Bob now and you're learning these things, you got to put it into practice or it's never going anywhere, right? You got to do the thing now. You're never getting to that $10,000 a month. Even though you might not have necessarily knew you were going to make 10,000, you knew that you were going to make money and you kind of know you had to because you didn't have that income coming in. So you're getting into do it, getting it done, not just taking it in, but getting it done. And you're saying that what you have in your vision is myself out of that $120,000 debt. And so you're making decisions to sacrifice some sleep and being up in the morning.
That's right.
Earlier than usual because you're looking at your future self. And this is the thing that a lot of people say, hey, Dr. Alisa, how do you do it? You do all of this stuff. Well, my future self, which might just be one thing, we talked about that one thing you have on your goal. I'm not going to spill the beans, but that one future goal, who do I have to become today to get to where it is that I'm going? So you're giving us that recipe. My question is for you, when people find themselves in the moment, just making decisions about their future, thinking it's all about now and what they used to be, how do they get themselves unstuck from that?
Well, they have to have a goal. Without a goal, without a significant vision, first it starts with vision. So I recommend everyone write out a vision of a year from now of where you want to be, but you come from the assumption that it is impossible to fail. And we got to understand what the word assumption means. If you look it up in the dictionary, it means fact. So you come with the fact it's impossible to fail. And your job, once you write it out, and I'll give you my cheat code with my clients. I have them write it out for 7 straight days because it expands. Now they're starting to get in the spirit of it. But I have them listen to classical music, Mozart, Beethoven, because it neutralizes their analytical mind. And then at the 7-day mark, you record it and you listen to it every day for 10 minutes. Now, why do you listen to it? Because you're implanting it deeper and deeper in your consciousness. Every time you listen to it, you're deepening your commitment. But in your consciousness, you're training your subconscious mind how you're going to live in the future. But that's step 1. Step 2 is now we build a philosophy that is in harmony with that vision. So what are some philosophies? I do it before I'm ready. I do it now. Everything I touch turns to gold. And so you build your philosophy based on the vision you wrote. But so it goes from vision to philosophy. Your philosophy then creates your standard. Standard is showing the world who we are. So standard, you can't fake. But standard creates abundance. Then your standard creates your story. There's only 2 things that are a life-fulfilling prophecy. It's our attitude and our story.
Wow.
So that's why we have to create an empowering story now. And the story creates the identity. Identity creates the result. That's how anything you're doing right now is being created either consciously or unconsciously.
Stories.
And so one of the things that we want to ask ourselves, is my old story real?
Oh, come on.
Is it real?
Yes.
See, when people say, I'm in pain, okay, the first thing I say, pain is good. Pain is good because that's where growth happens. It's bad for the ego, but great for the soul. But what we have to do is understand, am I still living my old story? People are living it for 50 years.
Right.
Right. And they don't have to. They can rewrite the story.
Yes.
But you got to understand, 95% of our day is already done. Today, your day was already done before we start. Unless we choose to be conscious about changing it.
Yes.
But when you're recording a program, it's no different than how you became your name. So like your parents didn't just say, Alisa once, okay, she knows her name. They said, Alisa, you're so cute. Alisa, you're so sweet. Alisa, you learned to crawl. Alisa, you learned to walk. So it's the repetition of listening to the whole thing is what creates the program. So the repetition of listening to that vision is going to get you to behave differently, start thinking differently. You're going to start attracting something completely different in your outside world.
So here's the question I have for you. I already had programming. Like my parents said my name, and I also grew up in a third world country where there's poverty lot around me, and I happen to be what they would call one of the more affluent people, and still not a lot. I didn't understand this, but I've been programmed that you get here, and this is what success means. So while I'm doing what you're teaching me, how do what becomes of those other stories?
They get overwritten.
Because they exist. I said something to one of my dearest just a couple days ago. I said, in the journey, we're talking about some people's programming came from the journey that they may have had a very horrible divorce or a medical thing happen. And it's like, I'm a cancer survivor. And when I survived cancer and cancer, and please guys, we're not demising. Don't take that to mean we're putting anything. But I have a lot of stories. Some of the listeners and viewers know, my story with having brain injury as a young girl, going through fertility treatments, going through a divorce. That was not horrible. It was a conscious divorce, but it was divorce. My whole life was in a tailspin. I wanted to take my own life. The point I'm making is I could sit here before all of you and I can make a podcast that sounds like this. Do you know how hard it is to, after losing your memory at the hands of a family member hitting you on the head, not knowing if you're going to make it, and then I could sit here and tell you that story.
Yeah.
Or I can tell you that those things, like you said, Arash, it was the pain that I was able to learn from, but still focus more on my purpose and then keep adding programming that would take me away from, I'm the girl from a third world country. You get a 9 to 5, you crush it in corporate, you're winning because you're making 6 figures. Go you to, no, I have a message that's going to go all over the world. I'm going to help change socioeconomic conditions around the world. What is the difference between the story when you said the old program gets rewritten? Is it automatic or is it something you're intentionally doing?
Well, it's both. I mean, it happens automatically, but to change a program in a healthy way, it's intentional. So if I listen to what you were just sharing, what came to my mind is Alisa transformed her past to create a better future. That's what came to my mind.
Yeah.
I am not into obsessing about the past, but I'm not into not learning from the past.
We examine it for that.
See, a lot of people will come to me and they say, you're a positive thinker. I don't look at it that way. I'm an accurate thinker. So it's very different. Is it more positive? For sure.
Yes.
But when you're thinking accurately, that's how you unleash your talent.
You're looking at facts.
That's it. You're just looking at it and say, okay, if you look, now I'm going to get nerdy with you.
Let's go. I'm in there with you.
So the research shows us that a negative thought gets implanted in our subjective mind 18 times faster than a positive thought.
Yep.
So, look, if you want to think negative,
go for it.
Go ahead. Yeah. I just choose not to.
Right. It's a choice.
It's a choice, yes. But I had to retrain myself. It's no different than an Olympic athlete or a sports individual. Or somebody in a great entrepreneur, they got better at their craft the more they practice it.
Right.
We have to start putting more attention on our thinking.
Come on. Think about the thoughts you think about.
Exactly. Thinking makes everything so. Thinking is a prequel to freedom. Ooh. Or thinking is a prequel to disaster. Whatever you want. You're choosing. William James has a quote, and he says, the last thing human beings let go of is suffering. And, I always tell my clients this, and this is a good question for your listeners. I want everybody listening to me right now and ask yourself, right now, am I committed to the freedom or am I committed to suffering?
Whew.
So when you look at that.
Wait a minute. Let me check. I'm still playing a little bit on the suffering side. I got to get it up. How do I do this?
Well, number one, you've got to understand the reason people are committed to the suffering, they're letting the circumstances control who they are.
Ooh, that's...
So it's never circumstances that are your problem. Now, I know some people listening, they're going to be like, you don't know mine. Trust me. I know this. And your belief system is the problem.
Come on now.
So we want to have the same results of the top 1% with middle-class behaviors. It doesn't work. It does not work.
The first book I read this year is exactly that. You can't have the same behavior for a place you're wanting to leave. And I can't say I'm moving to New York, but go get a new home in Phoenix and never plan, never figure out where I'm going to live, where I'm going to work, or what I'm going to do in New York. Haven't even tried to do anything. But I'm moving to New York. It's a wish. It's a wish.
I think this is taking me on a completely different thought pattern, but I was in Italy.
Take us. We're following you.
I was in Italy last summer, and my wife's getting ready, and I'm sitting out on the deck, and this thought came, what started this whole thing for you that went from failing to succeeding? And it was so clear in my mind, I bet on myself.
Yes.
And I will tell all your listeners, it's going to take courage for you to create a much greater life.
Come on.
But you have to bet on yourself. But who would you rather bet on? I mean, you're with you your whole life.
No, you're never leaving.
You're never leaving, but you have to have that courage. And you just have to start one day. Start one day.
And keep one step in front of the other.
That's it. I used to have the worst discipline. My mentor, one of the first things he said, you're not going to create this life without discipline. I said, I have terrible discipline. He said, no, you have a terrible attitude towards discipline. Ooh. And I knew that, and I changed it. So how I changed to be incredibly disciplined, now I'm one of the most disciplined people you'll ever meet.
Right.
But why did it change? It changed because I didn't say, I'm going to do this for 90 days. I'm going to do this for 12 months. I said, just for today, every day became day one for me.
Come on.
Because you and I, if I said, Alisa, let's go and hike for 2 hours with me every day.
Yes.
And I said, but let's make it just one day.
That's
you can do it one day.
One day.
So that's how I built my thinking and retrained myself on a subconscious level. And if your listeners don't understand, your subconscious mind creates 96 to 98% of all your results, perceptions, and behavior.
Come on.
But you have to know how your conscious mind works, because you can't get to the subconscious without the conscious.
Without being, exactly, conscious awareness.
That's right.
Then you get into the subconscious awareness.
That's exactly right. But what does our conscious mind do? It's our thinking mind. It's our educated mind. It's how your conscious mind, you can accept or reject any idea. You can originate ideas. Your subconscious mind has no ability to think. So when you don't accept or reject, you automatically accept it. And that's why most people are sabotaging themselves, even though they don't want to. They're not meaning to, but they're not getting in control and guarding their mind of the limiting thoughts and saying, no, I do not accept it.
I do not accept it.
And they're accepting it, so it goes deep down inside.
Exactly. And you just described my process, because people think that mindset is your focus, your mindset disruptor. You disrupt limiting beliefs in the lives and hearts of people. But personally, the theme is really, I get up every day and I disrupt my own limiting beliefs. And basically, it's that conscious and subconscious awareness of when they are. And I say, no.
Yes.
I reject it. And it sounds really simple, but it is once you do it and you keep doing it.
If you do it for 30 days, you're going to do it for 30 years. I mean, because your life changes so dramatically. If you just did this, and I give all your listeners this test for the next 30 days, just look for the good in everything. Watch how much your life is going to change.
Yes.
You're looking for the good. Yes. Somebody cuts you off, so I'll say that they must have been having a bad day.
Right.
So you look for the good in everything. If you look for the good, you're going to find the good. If you look for the bad, you're going to find the bad.
You're going to find more of it. And so that's the thing. And I just said it, even with all the thing with the stories and the narratives, is once you realize that you have a choice what you do and what story you put on replay for yourself, those are going to reflect in the results that you get or you don't get. And so whether it's a rough patch, a horrible, accident, a disease, or whatever you might have encountered, you get to rewrite that story and rewrite the script every single time. And we're not going to back off on you, because none of our lives sitting here has been anything straightforward or without trials and pain. But the choice we made is why we're sitting here every time. And we continue, because I remember in my healing journey with coming out of divorce, 2 years later, I literally had a moment where I went spiraling down for like, I would say 36 hours of the woe is me, why it's taking so long for me to get back on my economic space that I'm used to, all the things I can't afford no more. And the story just came out of nowhere. Do you know what that was for me, Arash? It was a choice. And once I was laying in my bed, I just had surgery, and I realized your mind is playing tricks on you because this is not who you are. And this is not what you've become. That is a past narrative. Who are you now? And so I tell people all the time, that's why I talk about gratitude. And that's literally just focusing on the positive. Once I looked at my life was like I would say it was at already a 360 degree better than when I was married. Not shame on anybody. I'm just saying who I've become.
Right.
Who I've become. And so when you look, and everyone would have looked at my life at that point, they would see all these accomplishments, not understanding those were the side effects, as I would call them, of who I had become because of what I chose to believe. Oh my goodness, this is just going so brilliant. So now we're going to go into a little bit of your blueprint about building the right mindset for generating millions, or that millionaire mindset that will bring you on the journey to millions.
Yeah, sure. So first thing we have to understand is
we established that the money in a millionaire mindset is a byproduct.
It's always a byproduct.
So we already established that.
It's always a byproduct, but mindset, the word mindset is so polarized now.
Come on.
And so we got to define what mindset is.
Tell us.
Mindset is a combination of the decisions you make, the disciplines, the standards, the identity, and the attitude. That's what mindset is. So a lot of people, well, tell me, mindset's so important. I do a lot of mindset work. What is it? And that's what I like to play with people and ask them.
Yes.
See, we have to understand what it is, but you keep saying something brilliantly, which is the most important question after we know what we want, is who do I have to become? And people have to define what those characteristics are. Because I can't help them achieve what they want if they're going to still be the same person.
Right.
See, so we have to define, answering your question, what are the characteristics of somebody earning $1 million that I admire? Because there's a lot of people earning millions that you do not want to change places with. I promise you. I promise you that.
I can agree.
You know, I'm in a mastermind. And there's a couple billionaires in this mastermind. Right. And the person leading the mastermind, I asked the question, I said, what have you learned the most about the billionaires that you've worked with over the last 50 years? And he said, they're the poorest people I know. And I said, I knew what he meant, because they didn't have a family life. Everything was work, work, work. So we've got to understand, don't just set a goal to earn $1 million or more.
Understand what you're really asking for.
Make it on your terms.
Yes.
Like, I was never going to overvalue my family. My wife and kids were always my why. Yes. They still are my why.
Yes.
Now I think my why are my clients just as much. Like, not just as much, but on the scale. On the scale.
It's your family than your clients.
Yes, because I mean, it takes a lot of courage to work on yourself. But we have to understand, okay, we know what we want. Now, am I committed to it? Exactly. So this is where everything changes. Your results always follow what you're most deeply committed to.
Yes.
Your goal cannot be a wish or a hope. See, decisions and choices are two very different things. Choices we can change. A decision is, no shit, no kidding. This is where I'm going. I'm burning my bridges no matter what. This is what I'm creating. I don't care how long it takes. I don't care how many hours of practice I have to put in. I don't care what
relationships it sacrifices.
The only time it's going to sacrifice a relationship is if you allow it to sacrifice a relationship. I've never lost a relationship because of any goals that I went after. I may have lost relationships because I've outgrown people. That's what I meant. So you will outgrow people.
Yes.
But you were meant to outgrow them anyway. And that's a choice they're making. So we have to understand, then we have to understand, what are goals? Since we were young kids, we've been taught it's important to have goals.
Right.
But we got to understand why it's important.
Why?
Yes, the why is very critical. So why are goals important? Because goals are targets for our soul. When you have a goal that you've committed to, there's a reason. You won't have to have me tell you, oh, are you disciplined? Do you have an attitude? You'll do it on your own.
Right.
But goals are what it makes of us. So earning I think financial freedom in general,
yes,
wherever that is for everybody.
It could be millions, it could be billions.
It could be whatever.
Yeah.
But it's the most worthy goal we can set as individuals because of what it makes of us.
Right.
But our goal has to become a love story. Think about a time you've been in love. It's such a neutral energy. It's so relaxing. Yes. It's so easy, but it's always on your mind.
Yes.
Well, when you make your goal a love story, you fall in love with your goal, that's all you're thinking about.
Yes.
Then you're going to start thinking differently. You're going to feel differently, and you're going to be willing to act out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
So if any of you are right now, well, at the time we're recording this, we're almost 6 months into the year.
Yes.
And you're going to be in two camps right now. You're going to really be making it happen, or you're going to, I wish I would have done this different, right?
Exactly.
But what if I told you that we can make the next 6 months the best 6 months of your life if you will lock into your commitments? Because that's where it starts. But there is no goal without a big why. The why, everything we do, like we're doing this podcast because we had a reason to do it. There was a why behind it, right?
A whole lot of whys.
Everything we do, right? Everything human behavior does, there's a reason behind it. We have to connect a big why with our goal.
Yes.
And if our goal does not have a why, it has a why not. And that's what's going to stop you. Either your why is driving your actions,
or your
driving your disciplines, or your why not.
That hits.
But let's go deeper into this. Goal setting is an intellectual exercise. Goal achievement is a lawful process. Everything happens by law, not luck. And so if I jumped off the building, the law of gravity would come.
Right.
Yeah, you have people who say, oh, this is woo-woo. I said, you can say whatever it is. But we'll believe in the law of cause and effect.
Right.
Like they'll believe in that.
Yes.
But they don't understand the laws of their mind, how their mind works.
Which is still cause and effect.
That is.
It's cause and effect.
Emerson said the law of cause and effect is the law of laws. It's the law I'm most connected to.
Right.
But when we're looking at our goals, what I like to do is have clients write out, what are your superpowers? What are you just automatically, Somebody could say compassion. Somebody could say selling. Somebody could say,
speaking.
Whatever it is. Yeah. Whatever it is. Like you have these superpowers, or else your podcast wouldn't have grown as quickly as it had.
Exactly.
But you tapped into those superpowers.
Superpowers, yeah.
But we want to create our superpower team. So let's say we have 5 superpowers. And we're not judging ourselves. These are things that if I said, Alisa, this is what I see in you, because you'll see your superpowers a lot better from what other people compliment you on, right?
Yeah.
But we can always go there, and we want to go there to the goal achievement process. But goal achievement comes down to only 3 rules. You have to fuse with the goal, so you think, feel, and act from the goal over however long it takes.
Fuse.
Number 2, you create identity-based behaviors that are in harmony with the goal. So what are some identity-based behaviors? Disrupting comfort, always being out of your comfort zone every day. At least you do one thing out of your comfort zone.
Every day.
And number 3, you do 3 to 6 goal-achieving activities. Now, this is not busy work.
This is productive work.
This is your most important activities that is taking you to your goal. And some days it's going to be 6, some days it's going to be 3, some days it may be 4, but you spend 5 great hours in those goal-achieving activities, you're going to create a world-class life in a year.
Ooh.
That's how quickly it happens.
I believe it.
I mean, it happens, but there's so many processes that I teach.
Right.
Because the processes are more important than the result. The processes create the result by default. So we have to have really empowering processes if we're serious about creating a millionaire mindset.
I agree.
A millionaire mindset, if you really dummy it down, it's acting as if you're already there.
Right. Which you established earlier. Yeah.
That's all it is.
See, begin with the end in mind.
Well, everything is the end.
Yeah.
But
everything is the end. Yeah, you're just going to open up a well of words about what everything is the end.
Everything is the end. What happens is I want people to think of their goals the same way they think of going to the grocery store. So they know they're going to go there. They're not worried, I wonder when it's going to happen. But with our goals, I go, well, it's not working. I don't see it.
They really are the same.
It's the same thing.
Yes.
But that's why the great paradox of life is until we think, feel, and act like that person, we're never going to see the result. Now, here's a different one for you. Okay? And I'm sure you've heard this. Well, I know I've got to act like that person. I've got to think like that person. I don't know how to act as if. I go, you do it with everything that's not working. You're giving me worst case scenarios. So we're doing it all the time anyway.
You're doing it all the time. It's like, why are we complicated? I'm like, you've been doing it since you got out the cradle. I don't know how to sell anything. You don't.
Yeah.
When you wanted that binky, what did you do? You screamed. You convinced someone to give you the binky now or the bottle, whatever it was you want. We've been doing this our whole life.
It's so funny. But you know what?
That was a goal, right? The binky or the
listen, when
the
you
milk,
were saying you were sitting down feeling sorry for yourself for that time, that was a goal. That was a goal. Like when we say, I'm going to procrastinate, procrastination is the goal.
That's right.
But what if we train ourselves
to consciously have a good outcome on our goals?
That's it. And it happens by law.
Yeah.
It happens, everything happens by law.
I love that you put it that way.
There's nothing that does not happen. So we have to understand how our mind works. Most people have no idea how their mind works. If I had 1,000 people in a room, I'm telling you, 995 would have no idea the three parts of their mind. They may say conscious, subconscious.
I know, but they don't know the unconscious.
They don't know. Yeah.
Are those the three you talk about? The body.
The three parts. It's conscious, subconscious, unconscious is the same thing. It's just different language and body.
Right.
Those are the three parts. So what happens
when you talk about body, can you tell us what that means?
Yeah, your physical results. So what happens is, let's say we have a goal and we do the work, we do the repetition of thinking, feeling, acting that is in harmony with the goal. The repetition, doing it over and over again, now you're overriding the new paradigm and you are empowering in your central nervous system. It alters your vibration. Your vibration dictates what you attract.
Yes.
And let's not pretend nobody doesn't know what vibration is. You walk in a room, someone has a bad attitude, you're like, oh, I don't like their energy.
And we say it's like a lot of some people from different religions, but it's like, we don't believe in vibration. I'm like, exactly. We don't believe in energy.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't? What are we all doing here?
Yeah, exactly.
How do you think we all kind of congregated here? Because energetically we attracted to this space and this place.
Well, all you have to do, like even if somebody doesn't believe in God, and if you don't believe in God, I feel sorry for you, but that's your prerogative.
Go for it.
But the universe, because people will believe in the universe, and they'll say, I say, does the universe have energy? Oh, yeah. Well, so do we. Everything is 99.999% energy.
Yeah.
And Einstein says it the best. He said, success isn't hard. Just match the energy of what you want.
Ooh, yes. I love that. Match the energy of what you want, which is telling you to become the person that, you know how I put it, become the person that achieves that goal today.
That's right.
Today. And again, I love how you simplify it. Everything is a goal.
Everything we do is a goal.
And we set goals every day.
We're setting them unconsciously. We want to set them consciously.
Consciously. And not discriminate. I think one of the things we do is discriminate. It's like, hey, I want to lose weight. I want to lose 70 pounds. And everybody's like, oh God, that's a lot. And I love what you said. Well, can you get up and walk today? Can you walk a mile? Can you walk a mile? Can you not eat sugar for today?
Just for today.
Just for today. And I love how you say it. You say, just for today. And so you know where you want to go, but focus on making those steps sometimes just for today.
I'll simplify this for your audience. Success comes down to 3 rules. You have to decide exactly what you want. You have to determine what the price is that you have to pay.
Ooh.
And number 3, am I willing to pay the price? Now, I will tell you, you have to want success so badly. And you have to want it more than you can breathe. I always share this story of Socrates. There was a gentleman who came to Socrates' house and said, Socrates, I want to be as great of a philosopher as you.
Right.
So Socrates said, let me come out with me. Do you know this story?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes,
so he takes him out to his lake house and he says, kneel down. He grabs him by the back of the neck and he holds him underwater. And the story goes that the gentleman's kicking. Yeah. And then he finally brings him back. He says, if you want to be as great of a philosopher as me, you have to want it as badly as you want to breathe. And that's the truth.
He gives him it so simple. You got to want it as badly as you want to breathe.
Our want has to be through the roof. That's why want creates abundance.
Yes.
Want
desire.
creates everything.
Yes.
But I don't want you to keep it in the wanting state. We've got to turn the want into a desire.
Yes, desire.
If it stays in the wanting state, we still don't have it.
That can be the wish. Where it's not a goal anymore. It's just a wish.
It's a wish. But when you do the repetition, I'm so happy and grateful now that I am earning, using your example, I am earning $1 million or more, and I love it. You do it over and over and over. Eventually, you're going to start believing it.
And talking about the vibrations, that is how it opens up for you to, like you did in your journey. You were introduced to Bob. You said something to Bob earlier, but that was coming from, I would say, your subconscious.
Yeah, I think so too.
Of your desire and your goal.
Oh, there's no question.
But then consciously, what happened in the conscious, it was now brought to conscious when you're in this spot where you're like, I'm not going to this job, and you're introduced to him. And now he becomes your mentor. That's all that vibrationally, you subconsciously were creating the right vibration to bring you into the sphere of where your goals can be. For, again, it was one step. It wasn't like Bob just turned a magic key. But then the keys were given to you over time. And let's face it, and this is what I love what you said about pain. When your job lied to you and upset you and you realize how flaky the corporate world is, you had 2 choices. Surrender to the flaky nonsense and surrender your soul, because at this time you're in the fight for your freedom. But you're like, with fear, you can go in direction of, well, he is desperately wanting me. I kind of have an upper hand here. Or you can go, I'm going to bet on myself.
That's right.
And so for the listeners and viewers, I want you guys to hear that in connection with everything that he just taught us. And I'm saying thought because he is a thought leader. And he has also done this thing. And what we're getting out of him is a blueprint that we can follow in our lives, beginning from the way we think. This is why I loved him. Everyone who comes on his podcast, but this is what he mastered, is his mindset. All the millions and all the success is a byproduct, and I say side effect of these disciplines that you've created. So here's the thing I have for you, because some people like, oh, this is all the positive stuff. What are some of the things limiting some of the clients and people you meet in rooms all over the world where you're coaching and speaking that are really blocking people? Some of them would say, hey, I read your book. I've done all the Bob Proctor stuff. What is their blockage? I feel like I already know what the answer is, but for someone who hasn't seen the writing on the wall in this episode.
What people get stuck in is because they're victims. And I call it real work versus fake work. The fake work is the surface. Oh, I read a book. The real work is I'm doing the work. What is the work? That work is I'm willing to fail before I succeed. The real work is I'm doing the repetition of writing out my goal every day. Like I give all my clients a process. The goal always determines the process. But the real work is doing that deep internal work. And that's how the results get created.
Yes.
You know, I have a client. She was working, she's been working with me since January. And she is phenomenal. But she was working with another coach. And she goes, I really resonate. I saw one of your events. I really resonate. Will you help me? And I said, of course. So I give her exact processes of what to do. And she does them to the letter. I mean, to the letter. And this year, now she's on the cover of Lux magazine. She got her biggest commission check of 1.2 million in one check. And she said, "You changed my life." I said, "I didn't change your life. You changed your life.
Yes.
I was a conduit to show you what to do." But
you had to follow it.
But I will tell you, it's not just roses this whole time. You have to overcome adversity. You have to overcome when the results are in your face, because we've been programmed at such a young age. I'll believe it when I see it. We've been programmed that everybody's more valuable than us.
Yes.
We've been programmed, I'll invest in purses, shoes, trips.
Come on now.
But I won't invest in myself. So we've got to start asking ourselves, what programs I need to delete.
I need to delete.
I need to delete
Control,
it.
Alt, delete.
I did an event in San Francisco, and there's this real young, hungry guy. He's 24 years old. And his mom wanted to make sure I wasn't a cult, so she came. Anyway, when she came in the room, I said hi to her, but you could tell she was locked up. She was
got
like
the bars.
She had a very limiting energy.
Yes.
And anyway, the gentleman comes to me after. He goes, "Arash, I really want to work with you, but my mom won't let me." And I said, "Just do the free things that I have."
Right.
But I ended up gifting him one of my programs because he was so hungry. I don't want him to be limited.
Right.
Right. I don't want him because his mom doesn't believe in it.
Right.
Because he does. And I used to be young, and I used to be, when I got in this, I know what it feels like.
Yeah.
But we want to always go to the light, not the dark. So you've got to watch your proximity.
Wow.
You've got to always go to the light.
Speak that.
If you have darkness in your environment, you've got to slowly get away from it. Not really slowly. You want to sprint, but
I mean, we're in that space mentally where we understand it is a sprint, get a parachute, jump.
Yeah, I believe we can transform every 90 days.
Come on.
I believe that.
I just saw this thing and I started researching it where our literal bodies change every year. And he was saying that, you're just a 2024 version of your body, especially if you're taking good care of it. And this is why a lot of people, when we lose weight and we go to a more healthier lifestyle, we tend to look years younger. And then people who are not taking care of themselves, it's like they look years older than their true age. This phenomena is real, and it really starts here.
Everything starts in the mind. Everything starts in the mind. Like, I can tell you, I want you to look at yourself last year. What month are we? June.
Yeah.
Now look at yourself this year. Now, if I told you,
it's a big difference.
But if I told you, I want you to look at a picture of you last year to this year, you'll see. I didn't know you last year, but I know you now.
Yeah.
And I know how you operate with urgency.
Yes.
That I'm telling you, you're not going to notice that person. You're going to notice a significant difference in that person.
Yes.
See,
you do.
This is why you're risking more by not understanding this philosophy and how it works than by rejecting it right away.
Exactly.
But I always tell people, like, I never try to sell people on it. Like, you want to work with me? Great. You don't? Great. Don't. But
right.
I will tell you, I know, to every cell of my being knows this. And I communicate this way to my audience, that if you want to really transform, you do what I tell you for 6 months to 12 months, depending on where your situation is. And if you do it, you'll transform. And I say, hold me accountable to that. And I want to be on the hook because I know how quickly this takes shape over a 6 to 12 month period.
Follow it.
But if you ask your audience right now, what if, here's a thought, and I think this is the most ridiculous thing, but I'm going to say it. Do you wonder, Alisa, there's more money in the world than there's ever been. It's easier to earn money now than ever in the history of our life.
I believe it.
We all have access to it.
Yep.
And if you're not earning the money you want, then your processes are outdated.
Whew.
Your habits are outdated.
Whew.
Your stories are outdated.
Yep.
But you can have it if you change that.
You just have to change that.
You have to change that.
So, oh my goodness, that is an absolute fact, and we could take that to the bank and cash it.
We can take that easily.
Here's the question: who do you work with?
I work with inspirationally dissatisfied individuals.
Oh, I love that.
Like my ideal client, and I really work with everybody. I do corporate coaching.
Yes.
I do individuals. I do group coaching. But I work with people who have created a certain level of success, low six figures, that are just, they want more for their life.
Right.
But I also work with anybody who wants more.
Right.
We have to understand, all of us, including me at the top of the list,
Right.
can do so much better than what we're doing right now.
Right.
The essence of our being is perfection. So we've got to get, the starting point is being aware of who we are, that we have infinite potential, that our spiritual DNA is perfect, that it's all-knowing, ever-present, and all-powerful. Our job is to become more and more aware of that.
Ooh.
That's why you'll see people, you'll hear stories. A gentleman is trapped under a car, his 70-year-old mom picks up the car. You'll hear stories like that, right?
Right.
Or a 120-pound woman picks up a car. Well, why? Because they have access to all the power. They're not thinking, they're just instinct. I've got to save the life.
Yes.
So we have access to that all the time.
Wow.
But we have to understand.
We have to create the urgency.
We have to start understanding our mind. Our mind, we have these higher faculties. We have our will, our perception, our memory, our intuition, our reasoning. And we have to, in our imagination, we have to understand those are our superpowers. And those are what are in our conscious mind, and that's what's creating our results if we're using them for or against ourselves. So I would want to know, that's what I wanted to know. I want to know, okay, if I operate in harmony and access that power, I wanted to know about all of these so I can use it in my life.
In your life. Yeah.
I couldn't teach anything to anybody until I did it myself.
You did it yourself and became it yourself, I would say.
And I prepare every day. I study every day. I have a morning routine. I have it every 3 hours, an alarm that goes off. Why? Because I want to set my processes up where success is automatically going to happen. And that happens. I know people listening to this, they go, oh, I know that person. It's just so effortless. It's just so effortless. All of us have it.
Yes, we all have it. And it has to be, as you said, you have to write the programs.
You have to.
You have to rewrite, throw out some programs, and just write the program and put it on repeat.
Yeah, we have to.
That is the simplicity of it.
We have to rewrite, rewire. Whatever we're wired for, we're going to receive. If we're not wired for it, we're not going to receive it. Now, somebody will say, well, what about people who win the lottery? They lose it right away. And I will tell you what my results are. What your results are right now is what we're both wired for right now.
Yes.
But guess what? We can always upgrade the wiring.
Upgrade the programming and the wiring.
Always.
I love it. It's like getting an electrician to put new lights in your home. And that's the light when you have these quote unquote light bulb moments. But a lot of people are sitting here and they're getting 100 million times light bulb moments going off, listening, right? What separates the listening and the hearing to the actual people, I would say the 1%, who are actually going to be like, I'm going to go look up Arash Vossoughi. I'm going to go look up his book, at least. I've got 10 bucks in my savings account and enough to pay the bills, but I'm going to go find him. I'm going to go subscribe to his Millionaire Morning. I'm going to just tap in with him wherever, and we'll tell you guys how to do that. What separates us, really? Like the percent who's going to have light bulb moments, like, oh my God, some people are taking notes right now, and it's going to stay in that nice little notebook that's probably even on their bedside nightstand. And there's a 1% of the listeners that are actually going to do it. What's separating them, and how can we probably grab a few more and get 1.1% out of this episode?
Yeah, it's the talkers and the doers. The people who really want it and the people who say they want it. Is follow through is everything. Until we make a decision, nothing moves. So I will put you guys in a space that I was in. And I have this philosophy I have. We're either watchers or players. The watcher is always on the sideline. The player is always acting. And let's not pretend we're not all dogs inside. Like, we all have that dog that could take us up 10 levels, right?
Yes.
But we've got to stop playing it safe. When we're playing it safe, we're risking more. So I was in...
We're risking more.
This is 2007. Okay, I'm taking you back a long time.
Yeah.
And I was in a room, and my mentor he wasn't my mentor yet. And he was in front of the audience. He said, you guys are going to leave here and say, this was a great weekend. But he said, 3% of you are going to make the decision that you're actually going to do what I'm suggesting. He said, make a decision. You're one of the 3%. And I swear to God, I'm sitting there. I said, I'm going to be one of those 3%. And I was like, I took it really seriously, but I wanted it so badly. And I will tell you, the people who want it badly will do it. But we've talked a lot about wants, but I want to go deeper for your listeners so they understand this.
Yeah.
Your wants start in your subconscious mind. It's connected to whether you believe in God, the universe, whatever you want. Okay. The want then gets signaled to your conscious mind in an idea.
Wow.
Your podcast, it got signaled, idea.
9 years before I launched it.
Okay, I would have suggested something more quicker, but...
Of course.
Yes.
For all the stuff we've been talking about, it's why it took that long.
But it signals, our job is to accept it. What happens is people will accept it for an hour. They'll accept it and they say, I can't do that. I can't do that.
Yep.
And they you know why they say that? I've never done it before.
I've never seen anyone done it before.
I've never done it, and it's going to take a lot of time.
Yep.
What if I told you time is a limited resource? And you're going to spend the time anyway. You might as well spend it being great. So our job is to accept it. Yes. Let's say your podcast, okay?
Yes.
I'm going to create a podcast.
Yes.
And I'm just going to give impact to the world. You say... And you tell yourself, you create a declaration. I'm so happy and grateful now that I have a world-class podcast impacting people.
Yes.
And you say it every day, over and over. Now you turn it back over to the subconscious mind. And once it's a desire, when it's in that knowing state, it's not just in your subconscious mind, it's in universal subconscious. And that's where the whole universe conspires to make it a reality.
It does. And again, this is so true. And just about my podcast, I said 9 years ago, no lies. I can even show you the notebooks. Guess what? I printed the cards and a t-shirt. I even wrote maybe 7 or something episodes. This podcast has nothing to do with that one.
Yeah. Well, you outgrew it.
I completely outgrew it, but I also was saying, I'm not ready yet. It's going to take a lot of time. I need a lot of equipment. Okay, true story. I even bought equipment. Do you know when I started Mindset Mastery Moments? That was called Candid Conversations with Alisa Whyte. Like I made QR codes when QR codes weren't even popular. This is how we delay ourselves, because the perfection can be it's a good way of excusing. So now I need a better microphone. I had all kinds of microphones. Do you know when I actually start recording a podcast, I just jumped. I knew what I'm supposed to say. Of course, I've grown. I have all the things. I know what. Just started recording, and I didn't even use my professional mic. I used my headphones, my old fashioned. I didn't use my AirPods that my mom literally bought for me so that I can record my podcast or go on people's podcasts, because I was doing a lot of interviews. No, I just used an old little wired headphone and my phone to record the audio. Literally, some people can tell and some people can't. Most people say they don't know the difference, but I went for it. I just went for it, put it out there, got it up wherever it needed to be, a little art, the same thing. The podcast, it was just about doing it now.
Wow. That's what it is.
I did say I have a world-class podcast. I didn't know what being in the top 100 and all that, but I know it was going to meet millions of people, and I was committed to that, and it was going to change lives, and we're going to get testimonials of how this message is changing. And then every now and then, as much as my friends, they can come on and we can get on Zoom and we can record. And that was it. And that's what we got. But I did it now. The 9 years was all a waste of time. All I did was put it off. I do believe in divine timing, but I still believe that I put it off.
Yeah, I think it was going to be wonderful regardless.
Yes.
But what you did is you behaved your way into a new identity.
I had to.
That's, yes.
It was required.
Yes, because you got sick and tired of being sick and tired, no different than me, of what you've been wanting to do for 9 years.
Right.
Now, I always tell my audience and my clients, and I know you do the same, I tell them some of the mistakes that I made because I said, I want you to learn from my successes, but I want you to learn not to do my mistakes.
Right. Save yourself. That's why the mentor is the biggest cheat code, because you get to share those. Tell us.
It is. I mean, I made a lot of mistakes. I had an up and down attitude, and I always tell them, like, if I said, what changed my life more than anything, it was I changed my attitude. Because I started creating really good results. I mean, significantly good results.
Very quickly.
And
you did the work. Yeah,
but I noticed I was either high or I was low. So if the results were good, I was super happy. If the results were low, I was super depressed. I'm not depressed, but super low.
Yeah, you're just sad. Just not cheery, not willing to go hard as you would.
I always joked I felt bad for my wife because I was always up and down. Yeah. But, so one day I called my mentor and I said, I'm stuck right now. And he said, well, what's going on? And I said, I just am not in a quantum leap, and I'm used to being in a quantum leap. And I'm either high or low. He said, well, you know better. And he goes, you're letting the results control you. He said, I'm going to teach you a lesson.
Come on now.
He said, I'm going to teach you a lesson that my mentor taught me that I'm going to teach you, and I want you to teach other people. And he said, anybody can have a great attitude when things are going well.
Come on now.
He said a true pro has an even better attitude when things are not going as well.
Come on now.
Do you know when you get those like ahas, right? Like significant ahas. Anyhow, I went for 2 years. I put everything I was studying down. All I studied was attitude. Those 2 years were the most influential 2 years that I've ever done by myself, where I started studying myself. So now I'm not just studying the material. I'm not just studying my mentor. I'm observing my behaviors. And then what I discovered, my behaviors tell me my programming.
Yes.
So then I was like, oh, this is outdated, so I can change it.
Right.
But attitude, we have an attitude towards everything. All your listeners are having an attitude towards this podcast.
Yeah.
You and I have an attitude towards each other.
Yes.
So everything we do, we have an attitude.
We have an attitude.
So looking back at your question about the 1% who are going to do it, great for them.
Yeah.
Where it should be 100%.
Come on now.
Because think about this. 3% of the population are creating really great results.
Yes.
When 100% should.
Whew.
But if we don't choose in, if we don't act now, it's not going to hurt my feelings or your feelings.
We're going to go on and keep making millions.
That's right. But you know who it's going to hurt? The people keep telling themselves, like both of us had in the past, so learn from us.
Yeah.
I'm not ready. What you're really saying, I'm not courageous enough right now.
I'm not courageous.
That's what you're telling yourself.
That's what you're saying.
It's not that you're not ready.
So you're reading your own attitude.
That's right.
It's like a translation. So what is my attitude right now, and what does it mean? What is the programming that I have right now that's reflecting how I respond to what I say I might want or whatever I'm experiencing?
That's exactly.
I absolutely love that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we can talk about this. You and I, we said that the first time we talked. We can talk all day. We can talk all day long.
It's a whole masterclass.
But what I do with my clients is I put it into a recipe.
Yeah.
And not one recipe fits all.
No.
So you've got to specialize it to each person.
That's the beauty of mentorship and coaching.
That is that's what we're doing. Even before we started this, you're like, well, what do you think about this? I was asking you what you thought,
yes.
right? So different ideas that are directed for different people. But remember, and I want your audience to know this, if you have a want, it is meant to be achieved.
If you have a want, it is meant to be achieved.
Yeah.
whatever it is that you're wanting.
I was in a class that I was delivering, right? It's called Millionaire Mindset, actually.
Yeah.
That's the name of the class.
Yeah.
Anyhow, no, it was Millionaire Mastermind is what it's called.
Yes.
Anyway, I had this guy. He goes, well, I always wanted to be a professional basketball player. Why wasn't I? And I said, well, tell me your commitments. And he goes, well, I didn't really want it. I said, so what's the deal here? Are you like, you can try to shoot down my theory, or you could just do what I'm telling you. And he said, the next week he came on, he goes, oh my God, I am constantly holding myself back. Now, I'll give you a big one that I discovered just recently. I used to always believe the biggest sabotagers we have as humans is we're letting the outside control us. Yes. Now, I think that's 1A. 1B. 1A is we have to stop protecting ourselves from who we really want to be.
Yeah. Ooh.
We have to, instead, you're saying, hey, I want X, but I'll do it when I'm ready. Protecting yourself.
Yes.
You know, or you're having this resistance that's holding you back instead of going all in because you're afraid of what all in means.
Yes.
So.
Oh my goodness. You're afraid of what all in means. And how do we overcome that fear?
Action.
And I like what you said. One step. Can I just do it today? Or how about, can I just do this now? And then I ask myself the same question. Can I do this now? And then it might be like, can I do this for 5 days?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Can I do it for 10 days? Like for me, with the habit of recommitting my life to exercising every day, it was very difficult. And I have friends and stuff that are like, well, of course you work out every day. Well, of course you fast every day. And I'm like, you make that sound like I've been doing this for eternity. The thing is, though, I get up every day and every day seems like day one for me. Yeah.
Every master always sees themselves as a beginner.
Oh, thank you.
That's the truth. Every master sees themselves as a beginner.
Yes.
So they're never impressed with their results.
Come on.
They're never impressed.
And we never really, I would say, we never truly sit here we don't sit here and think about all the things we accomplished. Sometimes people are reading your bio and all this stuff and then you're like, who are they talking about?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, I remember that guy. I remember when I did this. I remember that. Oh, really? It's been an interesting journey. Oh, well, got a lot more stuff to do.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what makes life because, we're here to continue to grow.
Yeah.
Like if you run, you don't say, I want to run the same speed. You want to run faster.
Oh, you better believe. If I'm lifting 60s.
That's right.
I'm ready for, I'm in my mind, I'm like, okay, so this week now I'm lifting 20 on each side. Mm-hmm. And, next week I want to get to 30. Let's see how that goes, though. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, it's day 4 of 20s. And I'm like, this is starting to get really light. I am more than likely going to be lifting 30 by the end of next week. And so that becomes a goal that my mind and body is in harmony with.
But listen to what you're saying. Use lifting, because I work out with a trainer.
Yeah.
We understand, okay, you just said it. 20, I do 20s. I do the repetition of 20s. My body gets used to it. Now I'm doing 30s. It's the same thing with our goal. The more we get the repetition, that's what creates the wiring. Yes. That's what creates the result.
And that's how you would go from 10,000 months to 20,000 months to 30 to 50 to 60 because you just you're on autopilot in a sense.
That's
you know
right.
what I'm saying? And that's what I think one thing I've kind of learned from people who are super successful in making money and building and generating wealth is, first of all, inside of them, they have just created habits.
They have. And
it's not just, but...
No, you could say that. But like what I was thinking, they're so deliberate about their behaviors.
Right.
Their behaviors really mean something to them.
Yes.
It's got to mean something. Like I always say, like if you're selling and you're not selling every day, you better be upset that you're not selling every day because that's your profession.
Right.
And so if you're dancing and you're not practicing, then are you a dancer or is it a hobby?
Come on now.
And so I think our birthright is to live in freedom. Our birthright to experience all the great things we can experience.
Yes.
Like I'm traveling to London next week. I've never been there. I can't wait to experience it. I've been to a lot of places in Europe, but I haven't been there.
Right.
But what allows me to go there? What allows me to go there is the work I've been doing consecutively on a daily basis.
To create that freedom. And that's a lot of people love to see, oh my gosh, you're so lucky, Arash and Veronica, you guys are everywhere in the world. And that's just, yeah, but it's also a lot of work. It's like when people talk about speaking in Dubai last year at a great event, and they're like, oh my God, you've been to Dubai. And I'm like, it took me 4 days to get there.
Yeah.
There was bad weather. And I slept in 2 different hotels in 2 different countries, one time in the US, and I slept in the airport in Germany. And it was, but they only saw me,
they saw you speak
in front of these great leaders and whatever, and getting awards and things. And I'm like, but you don't understand. I didn't even quarrel. We didn't fret. We didn't get upset. We just, we tried to figure out what was going on. Our bags were in probably Dubai before we were. And we were somewhere else with our hand luggage. But guess what? It's that we just kind of knew we were going to get there, and that's all that mattered. The journey, and my point is to anyone listening is, I said all that to say, the outcome is always so beautiful and so radiant and so worth it that whatever it took, just stay the course with consistent discipline.
That's what it is.
Consistent discipline. Who do I have to come? Put it in place. And as Arash said, and we live by this in my camp, is your biggest cheat code, I'm going with your words, is a mentor. We say the only shortcut is a mentor, because you're going to learn what you said, the successes and failures from them, if they're a good one, right? So here's a couple questions. I'll flip the script. I got to ask you off the wall stuff that goes through my mind when I look at your life.
Okay.
The first one that comes to mind is how important, because I listened to your journey. You were engaged to Veronica when you said no to getting back on the wheel with the 9 to 5. How important has it been for you to have a life partner that I know is also a business partner and all the things? And I more than likely probably one of your best friends or your bestest friend. How important has that been in your journey? And what would you say to anyone who's on the fence on whether I should go alone or I should include someone?
I wouldn't be where I am without my wife. Like, I will say it to the moon, because she believed in me when I was failing.
Come on.
And
how important was that?
It was so important. But she never doubted me, at least publicly.
Right. At least not publicly.
Which I appreciated, but I would never be where I am without her. So I think we're not meant to be alone.
First of all.
But you want to grow with your partner.
That's it.
But you got to let your partner be themselves. Like, my wife got into a business. I knew it was a bad idea. Like,
but you supported her.
I'll tell you, but I was like, okay, I'm going to let her do it, because she needed to learn that.
Yes.
But she was my biggest cheerleader, so I'm her biggest cheerleader. Right. So I think it's why do people get divorces? Like, think about that. A lot of them is just they either didn't listen to the red flags early on.
Yes.
They're
not growing together.
Yeah. They're not really best friends, and I don't encourage you to get married if it's not to your best friend.
Come on.
But I will tell you, when you grow with somebody, it is going to be the most incredible journey of your life.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I thank you for sharing that. And this is, we talk about life, love, leadership on the podcast too. So how important is the character of the people that you surround in your inner circle, not just your mentors? We're talking about your team, the people who work with you and for you.
Oh, incredibly important.
And are their mindsets? How do you choose them? What's the process look like?
Well, I have characteristics that I'm looking for. Now, they don't have to be there yet, but if they're hungry, I'm looking for people who are hungry. I'm looking for people who are wanting to get better. I'm looking for people who have a great work ethic. I'm working for people who live the impression of increase, where they really are leaving everyone better off than you found them. Because I can always teach skill.
Right.
I can't teach character. So it's incredibly important to me. Like, I always brag. My company, Voss Coaching Co., we have the best team.
Yes.
And I brag about them all. I brag about them all because they all have heart.
Yes.
And, do they need to get better? Who doesn't need to get better?
We're going to do this forever. We're going to do this till the end.
So I think you never, ever turn your eye of somebody who doesn't have good character.
Yes.
It will be contagious in your environment.
Like a virus.
Here's what I would tell you. If you want to have an A+ company, you can't have C- players.
Ooh, come on.
Okay? You cannot have D+ players. Now, somebody could be D+, but you can see their potential and you can lift them up if they have an A+ character. So
right. Character
is at the top of the list for me.
Absolutely. The other funny thing I'm going to ask you, what is one of the most embarrassing things that has happened to you recently in this journey of coaching, mentorship, or speaking and traveling?
I mean, the thing that always comes to my mind, the most embarrassing thing that has ever happened to me, I was in college at the time. And I hope you don't mind I go back that. That was the first thing that came to my mind.
We just want to laugh at you and with you at the same time.
So I am at a bar and the stall of the bar is off. So I had to go back in the bar and the bouncer comes out and is like my wall. Well, this guy, okay, now I get even further. There's no toilet paper. And so I have to ask this guy, well, the guy ended up being, when MMA was first starting out, the champion. Ken Shamrock was the guy who was this person. If anybody's in MMA, you'll know. But I remember walking out. I was like, oh my gosh.
I can't wait to hear that.
Yeah, so that was quite an embarrassing moment.
Oh my goodness. That almost sounds like me going into the men's bathroom and having a full conversation and wondering why this man and his son walked in there. And I'm like, you guys are in the wrong bathroom. They're like, this is the men's bathroom.
Oh, that's funny.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been staying here forever. And I'm like, there was a urinal on the wall. I didn't notice. I was at a game with my niece and nephew and I just walked in there so I can finish a conversation and get back to the game. And I walked in, I guess, so it happens. Good stuff. So we're going to do, before you tell us how everyone can connect with you, we do something that's called Mindset Bites to Go.
Okay.
And so the question I have for you to give our audience is your top 3 tips that you can give them today that they can implement right now in their life simply to begin their journey with getting on the path to creating an abundance mindset, which is my preference. But let's go. Millionaire Mindset.
All right. So number 1, set a commitment that you're just going to focus leaving this with accepting and rejecting ideas. If you will do that in 30 days, you're going to start things shaping for you. Yes. So if there is an idea, a thought that comes in that I can't do it, say, nope, cancel. If one person can do it, I can do it. That's number 1. Number 2, write out a kick-ass vision that is worthy of you. Yeah. I mean a vision. Like take the time to write it out. And number 3, if I gave myself any advice from when I was failing, I want to give it to you that I would give to myself now, is stop worrying about things that are not here. Whew. And those would be the 3 that I would tell you.
Oh my goodness.
And I'll give you a 4th just to cheat.
We always love bonuses, right?
Just to cheat.
I love that.
Build discipline as a priority in your life. It will change your life. So those would be the 4 that I would give.
I love it so much. And it's funny, when you said build discipline, I thought about how many of us are disciplined at doing the wrong things.
That's right. Yeah.
Discipline, none of us are, we're all disciplined.
No one lacks discipline.
It's
about discipline towards the empowering things.
Love it. Yeah. I love it. Arash, tell us how to connect with you. Tell us about your book and your coaching and how we connect with you.
Yeah, so I wrote a book, The World-Class Wealth Mindset. I deconstructed for everybody. You're probably realizing by listening to me, I simplify everything.
And that's why this is why I absolutely love your teaching.
Yeah, so my book, I deconstruct my process. And you can get on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, and Audible. I recommend, however you learn. Both. Yeah, I recommend both because Audible, I really put the passion into it, so you really understand it.
Right.
go to my YouTube page. I give tons of free content.
Good stuff.
Yes, tons of free content. It's just my name. And go there. And then I have a podcast with my business partner. It's called the 7-Figure Standard Podcast.
Yes.
And my podcasts are very action oriented.
Yes.
And every week we have a different topic and I give you action items. And, and follow me on any social media platform. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to help you in any way I can. And, it's, you'll be better off if you do these things and all of these things.
Yes. You'll be on a start. And guys, just so you know, all of the info is going to be including the link to his podcast. You want to connect. I'm going to tell you, he is already one of my mentors. I'm sealing the deal here in a few months because I happen to be in also proximity. Yeah. So I'm not going to miss the opportunity to be mentored and coached by him, but connect with Arash wherever you are. And listen, a millionaire mindset is not only about money. As a matter of fact, is the last thing that it's about. I hope you guys got that off this episode. And so if you had to say one thing to our viewers that I know you give this a bonus as we exit this episode because I didn't want it to end. Yeah. I didn't want it to end. We really festered on this. If you had one thing to say that you'd never want them to forget about life, what would that be?
Seize the moment, and you're a lot more powerful than you think you are. Ooh. I will tell you that every single person, whatever you're going through, I promise you, if you're in a great space, it can get better. If you're in a challenging time, it's doing it for you to prepare you for something greater. And if it's really bad right now, it's going to be really good soon. There's an opposite to everything.
Ooh, so good. Disruptors around the world. You have had global thought leader, coach, trainer, and speaker, Arash, in the building. And he has given us so much to learn from. Please like, share, and share this with someone that needs it. And Arash, this is not your last episode. And guys, it's not the last time you hear from him. Thank you so much for your time.
It was great, Alisa.
And everything that you've given us today. So much about service. You taught us that lesson. That's where it all starts. Thank you
so much.
Thank you.